Have you wondered what it's like living in San Mateo, super close to the San Francisco Bay? I'm gonna share with you a little bit about the Parkside neighborhood and the North and South Shoreview neighborhoods. But first, I'm outside a listing of mine in the Parkside neighborhood for $1.6 million. And in a minute, I'm gonna take you inside and show you what your dollar can get you in this awesome neighborhood. First, I want to tell you a little bit about why I really like kind of Parkside and Shoreview. So just to give you some context, these neighborhoods are east of 101. They are south of Coyote Point, just kind of north of the 92 freeway and west of the San Francisco Bay. So what I love about these neighborhoods in general, the price points are much more attractive than west of 101. And these neighborhoods are all, none of them are brand new, none of them are super old. Like, I just kind of like the vibe because you get a lot of one level ranch style houses. You just get these really awesome floor plans with like a 2-car typically attached garage. Some floor plans like have a really open concept feel that kind of flows into the yard. So I really like that feel. We're also really close to Seal Point Park, which is one of my favorite places to go. I love riding my bike near Seal Point. There's a dog park there. We're also very close to Parkside Aquatic Park, which is again right by the water. On hot days, there's a little like water will kind of shoot up in the kids' playground there. So that's a fun spot to go to. And again, I mentioned the Bay Trail access, but that's a huge selling point at this area. The Bay Trail actually starts, it kind of goes up and down the whole peninsula, but the best parts are Burlingame, kind of near the airport hotel, that goes all the way down south through Redwood Shores. And so kind of where I am now, you can just walk like 5 minutes and you're on this Bay Trail, and it's totally paved, there's no cars, and you can go about 5-6 miles in either direction. And I think that's pretty nice because where else can you kind of get that relaxing feel? There is Sawyer Camp Trail in San Mateo up by the Crystal Springs Reservoir. I'm a huge fan of that, but if you're in these kind of flatter areas, this is a good place to be. The other thing about Parkside Aquatic Park, which I think is nice, is you have a beach and swimming area on the lagoon. You have volleyball courts and a playground. There's just good picnic spots too. And there's also San Mateo's only public boat launch is there in case you have a boat. What's nice about San Mateo is you are allowed to have motorized craft, whereas in Foster City and Redwood Shores, you can't really do that. It's more like paddle boats and stand-up paddle boarding. But in San Mateo, kind of on the waterfront here, you can do that. And I've sold a couple homes over the years on Lake Street, which is right on the water, super beautiful. It's kind of the wide water feel, and you can actually have a dock there with a ski boat if you want. And there's even one spot kind of out on like Port Drive and Fathom where there's a beach. And I once sold a property that was beautiful, kind of overlooking the water, and has its own sandy beach right there. And my clients, when they bought it, were like, oh my God, I didn't even know this existed in San Mateo. And I hadn't even either. It was pretty neat. Parkside is also a really popular neighborhood for families. So there's several schools that we have here, like Parkside Elementary, North Shoreview Elementary, Bayside Academy, and the high school is Aragon High School, which is just across the 101 freeway. So kind of east of 101, a lot of this area is reclaimed land from the San Francisco Bay. So we would kind of call that like landfill, kind of like Foster City and Redwood Shores, which are master plan communities. And that's all like highly engineered compacted fill, kind of like east of 101 here in San Mateo. So if that's not your thing, okay, don't buy a home here. That's a huge turnoff for a lot of people. However, look, you could go up in the hills in Burlingame or Hillsborough, San Mateo, San Carlos. You could be in a high fire hazard zone, or you could be in a higher liquefaction zone. So unfortunately nowadays it's kind of like, you know, pick your poison on what type of natural disaster or a risk like you're okay with. So obviously there's lots of people who live out here. We did have the 1989 earthquake, and these areas like did pretty well. Obviously I'm not an expert in that, do your own homework, but these areas are pretty sought after. The other nice thing is kind of east of 101 in San Mateo, kind of Shoreview Parkside neighborhood, the price points are a lot more affordable. So a single family home here is going to start around like $1.1 million, and they kind of go up to about 1.7, 1.8 million, with the sweet spot kind of being like about 1.4 to 1.7. So it's kind of nice. You do see some cuter, smaller 2-bedrooms, and you also see some really beautiful 3-bedrooms, and like we're gonna go inside and take a look at that. So I'm super excited to show you guys the inside of this house. So this is a pretty open floor plan. So when my clients bought this home a number of years ago, the previous owner had actually taken it down to the studs and did a major project. So what you're seeing here, this really awesome open kitchen, this is not typical for what you could expect in the neighborhood where we are, which is the Parkside neighborhood, and also Shoreview, which is just a little bit to the north. I believe, I mean, I don't know for sure since I wasn't here before, but there probably were some like couple walls here, and then this was all opened up. Personally, I'm a huge fan of this style of floor plan. I feel this is like what most buyers are looking for nowadays, as opposed to having kind of more like formal dining rooms. Obviously it is nice to have that if you're in like some huge house, and I have other clients and many people do have those. But for a home of this square footage where we're about 1,300 square feet, personally, I don't think you could get like any better floor plan than what you're seeing here. We have this like kind of lightly staged, but there's so much space over here. We have a awesome wood burning fireplace. You can't put in a wood burning fireplace anymore due to spare the air days and fire code and safety and all that, or air quality, I should say. But this is beautiful. You have some really nice natural stone here. I think this is travertine tile down here, and the travertine here is matching the travertine tile on the floor, so it all kind of ties together. Again, you have awesome connection to the yard here through the door and the glass. And then also you can see out here the beautiful rose garden. And so I just like this feel. Obviously, if you're into watching TV, then this would be a good spot where the TV could go. And then you could have an L-shaped sofa here. I mean, there's a lot of different options for this flex space. Personally, I'm a huge fan of having this rather than like the original floor plan. There's probably a wall there kind of separating this space from the kitchen area. This is just a really nice flow. I hope this gives you some ideas. Come on and take a look. I want to show you over here. First of all, you have a really huge island. Now, a lot of islands that you'll see are just like rectangles and maybe like a few feet, and that's again fine. But I feel like because this is kind of a different shape, it just gives a lot more space for what we have here. And it's kind of cool because we don't have a stage like this now, but you could put some bar stools here. And so if you have kids, they can sit up here and do their homework, or you could sit up here with your MacBook and get some work done if you're working from home. But I just think that's a really clever, thoughtful use of space. I like that there's 3 pendant lights here, and if you'll notice, like they're all kind of hung at different levels. So there's some really cool design elements that I think are a little bit different that you don't see too often. I also really like in here that you have a lot of cabinetry underneath. So for example, I'll just kind of show you here. You've got all this space. You've got this. This is a really clever use of space in the middle. There's actually a lazy Susan that rolls all the way around. So it kind of takes up all the space under there. I've seen other homes where you just would have cabinetry on both sides, but not in the middle. If you were buying a different home and sometimes you'll see like a little prep sink here, and that's nice because you can kind of grab stuff from the fridge and you have your main sink for doing dishes and whatnot. Obviously this home doesn't have that, but it's not a limitation by any means because I think this is nice kind of the way it is, and it allows it to be a lot more usable. And if you like to entertain like I do, having friends over, this is like a great spot to put out all your appetizers. If you're doing a buffet, I think this is also really awesome. It's nice that you have your dining table kind of really convenient over here. So let's just kind of take a look at this dining space. Again, with the open concept becoming super popular in the last few years, this type of setup is at the top of like, I'd say most people's lists. And if you live in the neighborhood and you're watching this and you're thinking about opening up your kitchen, doing a project like this, hopefully this can serve as some good inspiration for you. Or if you're a buyer watching this and you're just wondering like, okay, what can I get in these different neighborhoods? Whether you're interested in Shoreview or Parkside or somewhere else, I do think this is a really popular floor plan. And I hear all the time from people that say, okay, is it possible to take out that wall? Of course, I'm not a structural engineer, but the answer is always yes, but like with money. So you can always take out the wall. You can support it with like a steel I-beam over there, but most walls can be taken out. It's just a question of like how much. So I like that was done here. And you still have these huge beams here that are kind of supporting the house. And then these other ones kind of coming in from the side, which are also structural, I believe, as well. The other thing I like is this corner over here. And I'm going to show you that in a little bit, the yard, which is massive for what's kind of typical in the neighborhood. But I like that there's these really cool picture windows here. And the view is fantastic. You're not looking at other houses. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. But come on, let's take a look at the rest of the kitchen here. And this kitchen here is really well laid out. We have a dishwasher here, and this view, like if you're standing here doing dishes, and I don't know about you guys, but like I'm not a dishes expert here, but I do enough so I know that when I'm doing my dishes here, I like to just be able to pop it straight into the dishwasher, and that's really convenient. And that's not unique to this house. You're going to pretty see that in any well-designed house with the dishwasher right next to the sink. There's something called the triangle where you kind of have this, and then you have the stove, and then you also have the fridge nearby. So I really like that. From this floor plan, everything is super conveniently located. The other thing here is there's a microwave above the stove. Now you might say, look, why are you even talking about that in your YouTube video? However, I am talking about for a couple of reasons. At a rental property that my wife and I own, we got this really cool, I thought it was really cool, microwave where it's like mounted down here and it goes zzz, and then motorizes out. And you can put your stuff in, but it's like too slow. It's kind of annoying. We still have it, but it is what it is. But I like this. Again, this is nothing fancy, but I like from a design perspective, this is above here. It's easy to open. And then you obviously have a fan here. Now I was reading a disclosure package for another client a few days ago, and I was talking about how the fan above here didn't even vent out. It just vented right into the attic. So this is the way it should be, which is great. I know this is very basic stuff, but something if you're watching this to think about and make sure whatever home you guys buy, you have it, is a normal vent. And then this vent here, sometimes it'll just vent out right into the attic, which is not good. You want to have it go all the way up, penetrate the roof, and then vent out from there. Otherwise it's a fire hazard. So anyways, just something to consider for any house, because I see that all the time where the vent just basically goes goes nowhere. So let's kind of come over here. I'm going to show you a little bit about the rest of the house. Oh, and the other cool thing for this house being 1,300 square feet, it just has an incredible use of space. So we do have a little pantry. I know it might be a little hard to see, but you can actually walk all the way in here and check it out. You can't even see me because there's so much space in here. So this is kind of cool for only 1,300 square feet that you even have something that you can walk into. Obviously you're not walking in every day, but it is convenient to have all this space and just to be able to like stash your stuff somewhere. If you have guests coming over, throw it all in there. I like it. Okay. The other cool thing about this floor plan, we have all the living area there, but then you also have all 3 bedrooms on this side. So come on over with me here now. I'm going to show you kind of towards the back of the house. We have 3 rooms. This is the first bedroom. It's not the primary. I'm going to show you that in a sec, but this is again very basic. Most homes in the peninsula, they're going to have typically a 5-foot setback between the exterior of the structure and the fence. Now if you're watching this and you're coming from like the Midwest or the East Coast, you're like, what, that's so tight. I don't like that. It just feels close together. That is the reality for most homes in like flat locations on the peninsula, unless you start getting like up into Hillsborough. We're getting a minimum of a ½ acre. You're in San Mateo Park, you're up in the San Carlos Hills or Burlingame Hills, you're going to see that. But for most homes that are in a flat neighborhood on like a 5,000 or 6,000 square foot lot, this is bigger than that. You're going to expect to see that setback. And again, this is not a bad view. It's like totally fine. I think it's really nice personally. All right, so let's go walk over here. I should mention here, again, in the category like in the microwave, not too exciting, but in California law, even if it's an as-is sale, you're required to do 2 things. Number 1, there needs to be a smoke detector in every bedroom and hallway leading to a bedroom, and there needs to be a carbon monoxide detector on every level of the house. So that's a requirement, and then also the hot water heater needs to be braced and strapped, assuming it's not a tankless hot water heater. So anyways, let's keep going. Oh, and then here you can obviously see this is the carbon monoxide detector. These are like $20, but you definitely don't want to take these batteries out. Let's go take a look at the second bedroom. What's kind of cool is with the really high ceilings that you've already seen, it's carried into the bedrooms here. This is a kind of a mid-century modern floor plan. It's not an Eichler. Some of you might be familiar with Eichler type of homes, but it was certainly like inspired. This was the same era from a time perspective. And again, this is a twin bed that we have here, but this could easily be like a double. This is not, you wouldn't put a king in here. You could put a queen, but I think it'd probably feel a little tight. So I think like a double is perfect. And again, this could be a kid's room. It could be an office. I think it's pretty cool. All right, let's go check out the primary bathroom now. Oh, and then we do have like a little, this is small, but I do think it's really cool. Just like a little coat closet. That's nice. All right, this is one of my favorite parts of this house, the primary, because you actually have the walkway over there when you're coming to the house. So you'd keep the blinds like drawn a little bit, but it's super private. And just looking out this way, you can barely see the neighbor's house. And that's kind of, I think, a nice selling point about if you have like a high fence in between. I do like here, a lot of times you'll see primary bedrooms that are actually in the back of the house. So this one's in the front of the house. However, it feels like you could be in the back of the house because the view right out here is actually really private. I don't see the neighbor's house here. I don't see the street. I just see like the beautiful roses and the nice grass. So I really like what's going on here. This is pretty cool. All right, so let's take a look at the primary bathroom. This is not huge, but for a house of 1,300 square feet, just to have a primary bath, like I think is pretty cool. So again, you have toilet, sink, install shower, boom, easy. Otherwise, you'll see a lot of homes at this square footage. They just don't even have this. They just have a hall bath and that's it. So let's kind of go over here. I'm going to take you into the backyard now. And I'll just mention what I love about this location here is you're so close to the Bay Trail. You have an elementary school kind of just behind the house. And it's just a really good location. So if you're kind of looking in the Shoreview Parkside neighborhood, it's very conveniently located. If you're within like a block or two of 101, you are going to hear the freeway. And if you're like really, really close to the Bay Trail, sometimes you can hear a little airplane noise, but it's like not that big a deal in my opinion. So if you're kind of in the middle of all that, that's ideal. Again, if you hear more noise, that's going to affect price. Let's go ahead and take a look outside. So this lot size is a little over 7,000 square feet, which is pretty big. Most in the neighborhood are going to be closer to like the 5,000 and 6,000 square feet. So you can absolutely feel that because you can see how much deeper it is. It's a lot wider. So for someone who really values a yard, like this is pretty nice. I wouldn't set the expectation if someone's looking to buy in kind of Parkside or Shoreview that they would be getting something this big. But if you're patient, I do think you can get that. On the other side of this is a school. So of course you can hear kids at recess and all that, but I mean, it's not really a big deal. But just to give you an idea like how big this yard is, I'm just going to walk back here and show you so you can see. I'm like 20 or 30 feet away from the house right now. And then it's just really nice. So over here, because this is like a over 7,000 square foot lot, which is not common, you get all this extra space over here. So like personally for me, there's a few options that like kind of come to my mind. So number one, I might be interested in planting like a garden bed because this is kind of south facing. We get a ton of sunlight here. This would be a good candidate for solar. If you're into like the hot tub, like we are with our family, we've got a hot tub like in the corner of our yard. This would be a really fun spot for a hot tub because it's also really private. So there's a rose garden on the other side of that fence there, and it's like super private. You have really high fences. You can do, typically for cities, they allow a 6-foot fence with a 1-foot lattice on top. That's kind of like the general rules, and I just like that a lot. And then you have this whole other area. So come on, let me show you over here. So I really like this part of the yard because you have a playground over here, and then you have a couple of really mature trees that provide like a ton of shade. Of course, everyone loves trees, but this isn't like common. Like not everywhere has this type of trees on the street or in the backyard. I remember in the beginning of my career, I'd have folks say to me, we really want like a neighborhoody feel. I was like, okay, cool. And then it took me like a couple years to kind of realize a neighborhoody feel, a lot of that had to do with like tree density. And then a few years later, I read an article, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal. And in the article, it kind of talked about homes that were on streets that had much higher tree density sold for tens and tens of thousands of dollars more. And I would argue around here could be 100 or 200K more. And so people really will pay a lot more. And I personally would if there are a lot of trees versus certain neighborhoods where there's just lower tree density. So in a perfect world, if I could wave my magic wand, I'd say, okay, go to a block where there's fewer trees and get every homeowner to go spend $500 and plant a tree. And then that would work wonders. I've also seen some studies that kind of talk about, sidewalks, they get a lot hotter if there's no trees. And so that just kind of raises the whole temperature of the neighborhood. I know it sounds kind of funny, but it is true. So I think having trees like this in the backyard is a really nice selling point. And if it's something that you do have the opportunity to buy a home with trees, like definitely take advantage of it. They're not inexpensive to maintain though. A tree could be $0 per year, but I've had one client in Hillsborough who had 20 redwood trees. It was about $1,000 per tree per year to maintain. So there is a price to pay if you do have these trees, but you can always get an arborist out and check the trees if you have one. Also mentioned just on the other side of this fence here is an elementary school. Personally, I think it's cool. Like I like to hear kids a little bit. I can hear a couple kids playing in the background now since we're kind of shooting this in the afternoon. It's a little after school, but other than that, you're not really going to hear too much if you're near something like that. All right, so if you watched some of my videos already, you know I love talking about these areas. San Mateo County is fantastic. If you're curious to learn a little bit more about the Shoreview neighborhoods, Parkside, just kind of curious about real estate in general, I'd love to be your Peninsula real estate resource of choice. So shoot me a text, drop me an email, give me a call, and I look forward to being in touch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.